Hi, welcome to another RHCE series video. In this one, we'll look at shell scripting. Okay, let's have a look at the objectives first. So you have to use shell scripting to automate system maintenance tasks. Okay, so we'll start by looking at a basic script. I'll show you how to pass arguments and process arguments in scripts. We'll look at if-else statements. And nested if-else statements. We'll look at two types of loops, for loops and while loops. I'll show you how to read files from scripts, and finally how to run system commands from within your scripts. Okay, let's get started. This is server1.example.com. We are in root directory, so let's create a directory for our scripts. Okay, let's write our first script. So script 1. The very first line, you specify what shell you will be using. So that starts hash exclamation and path to the shell. Let's use Bourne shell, the very basic one. So that's just been sh. Okay, let's declare a couple of variables. So var1 equals passed, and var2 equals RHCE. To declare variables, you just give it a name, equals, and then the value. And to use the variable, you do dollar and the name of the variable. So let's do echo var1 and var2. We should display the contents of the two variables on screen. You do need to make the script executable. So I'll do chmod 755. Okay, so / and the name of the script to execute it, and it's displaying our contents of our variables. Okay, let's make a couple of modifications. To process arguments, argument 1 is $1, argument 2 is $2, argument 3 is $3, and so on and so forth. So let's do $1 and $2, which should display the two arguments on screen. So if we run our script with let's run it with an argument. So let's display an argument 1, which is $1. If we do two arguments, it's displaying both. What will happen if we do 3 arguments? Well, it should only display the first 2, which is correct. Okay, let's make some more modifications. So the total number of arguments is stored in a variable called $hash. That's the total number of arguments that's passed to the script. So if your script requires an argument, you can very easily check that this value is not doesn't equal 0, or you can check that it equals a certain number of arguments that you were expecting. So in our case, we want to check that there's at least one, or there's one argument. So we do $. We'll say if it doesn't equals 1, then we want to exit the script. So that's -ne. So now we're saying if the total number of arguments is not 1, then echo or display this message on screen and exit the script. So just echo your message, and then we'll do exit 1 to normally exit out of the script. And to close the if statement is fi. So if our condition, then execute this, close the if statement. And then let's get rid of argument 2, because we are only going to be expecting one argument. And let's save this script. Okay, so what happens if we run the script without an argument? It displays our message and exits. Okay, let's run it again with an argument, with two arguments. There you go, that's expected behavior. So two arguments, it still displays the message. One argument, it displays the content of the argument and our two variables. Okay, let's make some changes to our script. Now we want to do some string comparisons. So we want to check that the argument that's passed to the script equals a certain value. So we can still keep this if statement, but we want to check that the argument equals either Windows or Linux. So let's just change the error message if one argument isn't provided. And we want to make this if statement a little bit more complicated. So first if statement is make sure there's one argument. If not, then display this message and exit. Otherwise, if it does equals 1, then go to the next if, which is make sure, which is check if argument 1 equals Windows. If it does, then echo the value of the argument. Otherwise, check if argument 1 equals Linux. Then again echo the value of the argument. Oh, we forgot the quotes, the closing quotes, so let's put that in. And then we want to echo the value of that argument. And if it doesn't equals Windows or Linux, so then we want to display a message. So usage, again script 1, pass either Windows or Linux. I've got too many quotes here. Let's close it, get rid of this one. Okay, and then we want to close our script, which is F5. So first check there's an argument, second check equals Windows, third check is equals Linux, and fourth is the default. So there is one argument, but it doesn't equals Windows or Linux. Okay. So let's save this. So we run it without an argument, that's correct. We run it with argument that's not Windows or Linux. Again, that's correct. So if we run it with Windows, it displays Windows. If we run it with Linux, it displays Linux. So yeah, the script is working as we expected. Okay, let me show you the man page for test. This is if you want to check certain conditions are true. I would recommend you look at this before the exam and just see what's available inside. So you can do things like check if a file exists and is a regular file, if there's a directory, if the argument path is a directory. Quite a few things here actually. The one we've been using for our number of arguments is here somewhere. Oh, there we go. So it checks the two integers are if they're not equal, which is what we've been using to see at the argument at least equals 1. Okay, so let's create a new script. Again, start with the first line, which is # exclamation and then the path to your shell. and we want to check the number of arguments. Equals at least 1. Here is saying if it doesn't equal 1, then we want to display in a message. So echo usage. So we want to run the script with a directory. If there isn't an argument, then we want to exit the script. Okay. Next we want to do is check the argument passed is actually a directory. So this from our man page, test man page, is -d to check if it's a directory. So if argument 1 is a directory, then let's do a for loop here. So for I, if we do a $, if we do a listing of argument 1, so that's ls $1, and then it's semicolon do. So while ls1 is returning a value, we want to display that line by line. So this will just list the contents of the directory passed to the script. If it's not a directory, then we want to display a message. And let's close the if. So let's set up permission. If we run it without argument, gives our message. Now let's run it with something that is not a directory or it doesn't exist, and that's correct again. Now we passed an actual directory and it displays the contents of it, which is expected behavior. Okay. So let's create one more script. Let's create a new one. Let's start with our first line again. We want to check again, we're going to be reading an argument. So we want to read what the user would type. So we'll display echo, please enter your name, and we want to read that into a variable. So we read that into a variable called name, and then we want to just display that back onto the screen. So hello, and then the variable name. Okay, let's give it the correct permission. That didn't work as expected. Let's go back into the script. Okay, I think I got this the wrong way around. So it should be, so you read the value into a variable. So read, the variable should be called name. Okay, that's better. Okay, let's run it again. Again, it's good. Well, that kind of worked, but not really. Let's go back in to the script again. It should have displayed hello Akbar. Okay, okay, I see what I've done. It should be $name because the name of the variable is actually name, not read. Okay, let's run it again. There you go, that's better. So this is how you would read from the screen. Okay, let's create a new script. In this one we want to read a file. So again, start with the first line, hash exclamation path to the shell. Okay, again we want to check there's at least, or there's actually one argument. So if the sum of argument, which is $hash, doesn't equal 1, then we just want to display a message and exit the script. So we want them to run name of the script with a file. Okay, otherwise exit. Okay, so we want to check that the argument passed is a regular file. So another if statement. So if -f argument 1, and let's use a while loop. So while we can read from the file and we'll store the variable in line, we want to do this. We want to echo the value of the line. So this will read line by line and display on screen, and you redirect argument 1 into the while loop. So read that file line by line. Else, if it's not a file, we want to display this message. Again, usage, name of the script with the file name. And let's close the if loop and save the file. We need to set the permission. Okay, let's run the script. So without an argument, it displays our message. Let's run it with something that's not a file. Again, we get our message. Now let's give it an actual valid file. So we're displaying the contents of the passwd file. Okay, let's create our own file. We'll call this directories. Just fill it with some contents, so dir1, dir2, dir3, dir4, dir5. Let's do all the way up to 10. Okay, save this file. Now if we go back into our script, so instead of displaying line by line, we want to take each line and create a directory by that of that name. So we do make the line, so this should create the 0 all the way to 10, or the 1 all the way to 10. So this is how you'd run a system command from within your script. So if we now run this script with our file, and let's have a look. There you go, it's created all the directories 1 all the way through to 10. Okay, and that concludes the video for shell scripting. I hope you found it useful, and thanks for watching. There's some contact details on the screen. Feel free to drop me a line if you have any questions or suggestions, and don't forget to subscribe.